Thank you for tuning in. How's it going? Good afternoon. Today is Tuesday, October 6th. We're going to do a quick little update here. Looks like we had some news come in recently regarding stimulus, and I don't actually have the news article, but I believe that Trump had asked the Republicans to hold off on the stimulus talks. We'll see if that changes. It's, sometimes we'll see news like this come out, and then the following day or a few hours later, we might see some other news that comes out that pushes it to the side, or maybe it wasn't as big of a deal as we thought. Anyway, time will tell. We'll take a look at that. But we're going to look at a few different charts here. We're going to look at IWM primarily. And then I have a list of about 4 or 5 other stocks we're going to run through pretty quickly. We'll do a quick market recap. All right, this is Patrick, and you're trading with Prime. Let us get into it. Okay, so for those of you who are new, welcome to this channel. Thank you for the 200 subscriptions, subscribers, subs, however you want to call it. Thank you, I appreciate it. Today was kind of an interesting day. We'll get into that in a second. For those of you, again, who are new, feel free to subscribe. We go live every Sunday, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We would love to have you on board. We'd love to see what your guys' thoughts are. And also, for those of you who have questions about today's technical analysis breakdown, be sure and leave a comment underneath the video, whether you agree, disagree, or if there's other kinds of technical analysis that you like to use, or fundamental reasons, things of that nature that you like to use. I'm going to start off with the S&P 500. I'm not going to go over it in much detail. All I'm going to say is we were getting, I wouldn't want to use the word extended, but we were rallying day after day. If I counted up the days here, it's been almost 10 days of, close to that, week and a half worth of rallying after we found this bottom. So we are still calling, if you follow my cursor here, this is still a top up here, and we have a lower high, and then it put in a lower low compared to this last little pivot up back here. And then so far it found a bottom, it rallied, and it has been trading sideways. Technically speaking, it's just trading sideways still. I know today was a pretty red day. Yes, it's extremely bearish close and extremely, I would consider this a reversal day. I would not surprise me to see lower prices, but I also have to keep in mind that we are still in this bull flag pattern. If you kind of notice this here, it is a bull flag pattern. However, at this point, I don't know if I would want to be positioned to the long side. And quite honestly, we could just remain neutral. So for people who, were taking trades today, and I guess it depends on what time frame that you are trading on, because for some of us who like to swing trade, we like to wait for the pullbacks, and we haven't really seen a pullback in the last several days. So that there would, in my opinion, there would be no really good opportunity to go long. And this is why, because risk can come out of nowhere. The news can come out of nowhere. In fact, if there wasn't news, I still would imagine that the market would pull back at some point. Maybe it wouldn't have pulled back to the magnitude that it did today, but for sure we would see a pullback at some point. It's not just going to keep going straight up. Okay, so with that said, let's go over to IWM. We'll start off with that one. And for those of you guys who are having a hard time with this, having a hard time with the market, feel free to reach out to me, message me, DM me in the Discord. By the way, the link of the Discord is in the description of the video, and so is our website, rtbtrading.com. So, that's the thing, is like, if you're struggling, if you're having a hard time, that's what we're doing these videos for. We're here to help. Sundays, again, feel free to join us live. In the last update that we did, we were expecting, or I shouldn't use the word expecting. We were planning or hoping for, no matter what word I use, it probably isn't going to sound good. We were looking at the idea that there could potentially be higher prices, and of course we've seen the higher prices. So just looking at the IWM, this is a pretty good market leader, Russell 2000 ETF. And the thing is that we're looking at there being some sort of resistance in this 160 area, 160 price area. And I am a swing trader mostly, so I do go down to the hourly time frame. I don't do a lot of day trading, and occasionally I do some, but primarily I'm looking for those pivots on the actual chart itself. And so far today's candle produced the pivot. The one thing to keep in mind is that it is kind of a slow bleed. What I mean by that is, if you were short the market coming into today, if you're short the market, you're either accumulating your short position as it's going up. If you're a swing trader looking at the overall daily chart, you're accumulating your short position, or you're looking for the actual reversal, which would have been this top reversal here. And if I zoom in on this just like that, so you can see it on the screen, this is the reversal candle you would be looking for, something like that. And then you have something, somewhere you could say, you know what, my stop loss is up here at 161, or excuse me, my stop loss is up here. Yeah, 161.01 would be the stop loss area. And of course, where there was definitely follow through, and here's that follow through we were looking for. But for me, I was using IWM as a hedge, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip over to another screen here. I hope I don't mess it up here. Discord. Okay, there. Hopefully you guys can see it. So what we're looking at here is these are the plays, and I'm not going to go through every single one of them, but we did have IWM on the board. And by the way, don't try to take these trades because they're no longer good. In fact, I wouldn't take today's trades either. So be careful with that. IWM was on the board yesterday, and it was meant for a hedge because there was a lot of long positions. So if you were long, right here we have IWM 146 put at 1016 was our hedge, because we had so many trades that were to the long side, and that's also why there wasn't a stop loss on it. And then of course today, closing out the longs, a lot of the longs didn't really work out today as far as swinging them from yesterday. So a lot of them I closed out myself. And then if you notice, this is today's action right here. You'll start to see today's action on the screen. And again, don't try to take these trades because they're done and over with. You know, you'll most likely lose money on them. But just to run through them, HSBC, SLV, BA, SMH, TLT, AAL, were all, AAL was a sympathy, a sympathy play off of Boeing news. I'll get into that in a second here. And then of course, IWM accumulation, I'm still accumulating it. I'm no longer accumulating it. This was today. So keep this in mind. I'm going to flip back over to the charts, and we're going to go through. As far as price targets go, this is an extremely bearish close, and that's what we're looking at. We're looking at lower prices. It doesn't mean that we can't have some sort of good news come out overnight and then the market rally. The reason why I took this trade was, for starters, it was the hedge position, but also we're getting pretty extended here. Again, rallying nonstop all the way up into resistance. Now, on a 5-minute chart or a 30-minute chart or a 15-minute chart intraday, it could really feel like, you know, it hurts when you're in a short position. It really hurts in a short position, and it's going against you to the upside. But having confidence in why you were in the trade to begin with, as far as a swing trading or a bigger picture perspective. And for me, that bigger picture perspective was, it's hard for you to see, but there's a price action over here. You have, and actually that's that candle over here is erroneous candles. There's not actually a wick, there's a gap there. And you wouldn't know that unless you went all the way down to the intraday time frame, but there's a gap there. And gaps like to act as resistance. So here is the resistance, just like this. Plus this area down here is also potential resistance. So if I use another color here, I know it's pretty wide, guys. Like, I know this is a wide range, but to be honest, this is the resistance range right here. It's just, that's just what it is, because it's, you know, from a gap from before, plus it's these highs over here. So that is the resistance area. And because the market was super extended these last week and a half, that to me was a perfect area to say, you know what, if the market starts getting above 160, if it closes the day above 160, I know that I'm going to be wrong in this trade, and it's most likely going to go against me. So I'll just take a stop loss and exit out of the trade. So that's what I was looking at as far as IWM. That's why we entered the position. HSBC, I'm going to just go through them really quick and try to keep this brief. HSBC, and I want to show what I was thinking in my mind and why I took these trades and why we posted them as alerts. So HSBC, you see where it fell. Follow my curve if you can. It fell through support. Well, first of all, it's in a really long downtrend. In fact, with something like this, I talked about it on the stream this weekend, you're more likely to be successful if you trade with the trend, and that overall trend is to the downside, not trying to pick a bottom down here and say, you know what, this is so cheap, I'm going to buy it and go long. That's not necessarily what's going to make money, in my opinion. It's wait for the rally and then sell the rally, sell the rally, sell the rally. You just keep doing it over and over until it stops working. And so far this year, it has just continued to work that way. Now, there are times that we do go long when we start to see a bottoming pattern. Another way to look at this chart right here, if I zoom in just like this, another way to look at this is that this could be a bull flag pattern. What I mean by that is you have a low down here of 1795. It rallies up like this, and then here is your flag pattern. But we are at resistance, and my stop loss for this trade that was posted on the Discord was $20.56. And the reason why it was stop loss is if you follow my cursor all the way back to this day back here, there's a gap up here. And this gap, again, this is the area that it fell through, or the market, it was support, it became resistance, and then it sold off from there. And now we've ran back up to either A, back test it, or B, rally right through there. Because of how far we've ran in the last week and a half, I would imagine there's going to be a pullback in this area, minimum a pullback. And that's why we entered this trade to the short side with a stop loss of 20.56. SLV. And I apologize for talking fast. I want to run through these, and possibly rewind it, or again, post comments underneath the video. And if you have any questions, I'll get off of. Oh, you guys can't even see the chart. Let me get back to Thinkorswim frame. There we go. And hopefully you guys could have seen those prices. Okay, so if you have any questions, again, put them underneath the video. Silver, same thing. We're looking at a stop loss of $22.90. I'm actually bullish silver. I'm expecting at this point there could be lower prices as far as on the weekly time frame. Of course, what we're looking at here is a daily chart. And the thing is that you saw silver run up to this area. This was a long time resistance area. So I can imagine several possibilities here. One is this was a bottom recently, a bottom pivot, and then now it's going to make a higher low. Maybe it'll drop for another day or two and make a higher low and then start to rally. We will see. Time will tell. However, we entered short on this trade because let me zoom in here for you guys. There we go. Okay, you can see it. Okay, so it found a bottom. This area right here, again, it was support, and this is pretty heavy support. It was resistance prior back here in 720 or in July. It rallied through there. It traded sideways for several, a couple months, a few months, and then it fell through. And it's now coming back up to back test. So maybe this will continue selling off. Maybe it won't. Maybe it will recover. But this was a pretty bearish close today. I imagine maybe it does want to drop for one more day, maybe fill a gap down here. And maybe this was overall bottom. And if it is, and if it starts turning back up, I would definitely be looking to enter long. But for right now, I'm just trying to get through this swing trade short. Again, stop loss 22.90 on silver. BA, we kind of got, and I know what some people might be thinking, we got either really lucky today, or it's one of these scenarios where the market was going to pull back anyway. It was just a matter of it needed a spark to get it going. It was just perpetual buying, especially in like the IWM, perpetual buying. And so like sometimes the market needs a little bit of a jolt, a little bit of a spark, but it's also a good reason why it makes more sense to go neutral instead of going long or short. Sometimes it makes more sense to go neutral and wait for the market to pull back or tell you what it wants to do, whether it's going to be a bearish or a bullish move. I would not count on these moving averages on Boeing. I think we talked about this on Sunday stream. I wouldn't count on these moving averages being support or resistance anymore. Maybe the 200 period if it ever gets up there, but this price action right here, I wouldn't count on these because price has already gone up and down through there so many times. I wouldn't count that. But again, Boeing stop loss, we're looking at 176.10, and the reason why is if you look back here, you can see where price was above this area and then it fell through this area, rallied. It's constantly consolidated in, around, above, below this price level. Recently, it had a rejection back here on 9.3. It rejected, which happens, it coincides with the market top of the S&P 500 top was around 9.1, 9.2 in that time frame. This was 9.3 where Boeing saw some downside. And so this is the first time it's really been back up to this area of 176.10. Also, again, a little bit, I don't want to say extended because we've been consolidating for several months, but it has had a nice little rally here. Maybe we're going to come down here and make a higher low compared to the low down here on 925. And then again, maybe Boeing wants to fill this gap and then it'll find support down here at 155. We'll see. My price target right now for Boeing is probably around 155. So we will see, and maybe we'll go neutral around that time period. If I can get lower prices, I definitely will keep an eye out. But again, stop loss is 176.10 for that reason that I mentioned before. Mainly the consolidation around that price level. Let's go to SMH. And I'm really just showing you these guys because I want to explain my thought process on when I took these trades this morning and what I was looking at as far as the reasons behind why I wanted to take these trades. So as far as SMH goes, same thing. We've seen this week and a half perpetual buying. We do have an all-time high over here, 184.61. I did not believe that SMH would just blast right through 184.61 without some sort of correction or pullback. There are a lot of traders who have, well, I shouldn't say it like that. I have had even me personally, like I've had a hard time with this concept when I first started trading, that you would see a lot of action like this, and then I would think that in my mind that this price action was normal, and so that's the kind of moves that I'm looking for. But that's not necessarily true. We have to look at the chart like it's different now, right? Like this is the new kind of a chart that we're looking at recently. We have to kind of maybe put this in the back of our minds, put it in the back burner and think about it for later, but keeping in mind, like, this is what we're probably going to see, is this kind of price action, whether it's up or down. I don't expect the same volatility that we saw back here. So as far as the SMH goes, I don't think we're just going to blast right through 184.61 without some sort of reasonable pullback or correction, and that could be sideways. It doesn't have to be down in price, it could be sideways. So let me zoom in just a little bit here and try to give you a picture of what I was looking at. And again, this is where swing trading, sometimes it can be kind of hard, because you're looking at this as your stop loss area. And so here's my, let's say I wanted to, in theory, make this my stop loss price. I'm a swing trader, so I'm looking for a daily close above my stop loss, or possibly an hourly chart close above my stop loss, because for this reason, we see this, now we see a reversal candle. Price shot through it, probably triggering a lot of stop losses on people who were short the market. Triggered a lot of the stop losses. They probably tried to hop on board and buy it. And this is also why we don't take breakouts. We don't buy breakouts. We wait for price to break out and then come back and back test. And this is exactly why, because you see this resistant level right here. Price shot through there. So imagine if you're intraday, and let me do this, and I will be wrapping it up here. We'll have two more right after this one, and then we'll wrap it up. So if you're looking at, here's a 5-minute chart, and again, you can see the gap from, follow my cursor if you can. There's a gap way back here before the all-time high. Heavy resistance. And it's confusing, because when people look at this, they think, well, you know, price goes through the stop loss / resistant area. Well, yeah, it might be resistance on a daily chart, but maybe it's not as heavy when it's intraday, because price will do this. You'll see price, it'll do this where it'll look like it's breaking out. And again, I know there was news after hours, or not after hours. I know there was news during the market today, but with the news aside, it's like, in my opinion, like, there would have been a reason, a rhyme or a reason at a later date. The news would have found a reason to say why there was a sell-off today regardless, but maybe the market was looking for a little bit of a correction, not a sell-off to this magnitude. So maybe the news really impacted that. So again, it breaks out. Probably a lot of traders hopped on board. AMD, Nvidia, all the fun ones we love to trade, the semiconductor type stocks, I should say. You know, and it starts to rally here, and it's a failed breakout. It's bearish. A failed breakout on a 5-minute chart is extremely bearish compared to if price just stayed underneath this 180 price level. So again, just because price goes above it doesn't automatically trigger a stop loss, depending on what time frame you are trading. If you were an hourly chart trader, and this is where it would get really difficult, is because it closed the hour above, and I'll just do this. If I zoomed in on this a lot, you would really start to see it. See how the price closed above that 180.82. It closed above it, and then it failed. So this is another reason why we like to wait for a back test of resistance turning into support. And if you saw something like this, let's say there was a breakout and you wanted to take the breakout, possibly wait for price to come back and then correct up, and either take that higher low or take the higher high, new highs breakout, actual breakout, and maybe a lower time frame, like a 15-minute chart. Okay, so that's SMH. Let's go over to TLT, and then we'll have one more after TLT, and we'll call this a day. So TLT, same thing. I was accumulating TLT down in this area. There was prior support back here, and what I'll do is I'll go ahead and go down to the daily chart, or go up to the daily chart. So you can see how there's prior support back here. If you follow my cursor, there's prior support back here. You saw a lot of choppiness through this price area, so that's consolidation. I don't know if this is more of a market snapping than it is consolidation. But maybe there's some support back here, maybe this area right here. You can see how price has really respected that price level, and respected it, I mean, it trades through it back and forth, or the area acts as support or acts as resistance. And so over here, also we have a 200 period moving average. So this is mainly why normally I don't take 200 period moving averages. However, TLT hasn't been back to the 200 period moving average since March 18th. And of course, today is 10/6. So it's been quite a while since we've gone down to test that 200 period. So I was expecting some sort of reaction at that level. And the same thing goes, price can always go through the 200 period moving average and then back above it. And then if it did and it closed back above it, creating some sort of a bullish candle, I would be a little bit hesitant. I'm not sure if necessarily if this is a dead cat bounce. It almost looks like one. Maybe it to me it doesn't look like a straight across the bow bottom. To me it looks like, you know what, this is probably a dead cat bounce. But nonetheless, I was looking at possibly higher prices or possibly looking at a bounce kind of a play. So we'll see what this develops into. And for this one, again, I think my stop loss, oh no, I had accumulation on this one. So it would be safe to say that you could put a stop loss just underneath here. And this is why, is there's a gap over here. So price decides to fall into the gap, it'll most likely want to fill it. And I understand this is the bond market, but it's still a chart. A chart is a chart. So let's go to the last one here, AAL. And this is the sympathy play that we did off of Boeing, but for other reasons too, not just because it happens to be an airline. So same thing with this. This is one of those things it was in the same context of Boeing and HSBC, where every time it tried to rally, it sold off. But not just that, it rallied right up into resistance. And so this is what we were looking at. I'll try to zoom in down here so you can really see it. There we go. Okay, so same kind of deal where you had put in a bottom and then it made a higher low. Maybe it's trying to make one more higher low. We'll see, but I like this area as a stop loss, this 1344, and for this reason of well, for one, it was today's high. That was the first reason, it was today's high. And so when I entered this trade, it wasn't at or near the highs, it was somewhere below the highs. So I told myself, like, okay, so if price goes back up there for any reason, if it starts rallying back above this area, this candle will start to look really bullish. And if it was a really bullish candle, maybe price would want to come all the way up to this area of, this $14 area. We'll see what happens tomorrow. And so with all of these stocks, we'll see what happens tomorrow. Anything is possible, but the more we look around the market, we could just go to like several different names here. We could go to the NASDAQ. Just, I would possibly, on your guys' time, go take a look at the rest of the market, look at the transports, look at the bond market, look at the S&P 500, and just see how everything closed today. And we'll take a look at what happens after hours tonight, and we'll take a look at market sentiment in the morning time, and then we'll decide, like, what are we going to do with our trades tomorrow? Are we going to just hold our short positions looking for a target? We really have to see what price does. We have to see what kind of price action there is, and in my opinion, it's better on higher time frames like the hourly chart or the daily chart. That wraps it up for this video. Thank you guys. Again, be sure and put comments underneath the video if you agree, disagree, if there's any kind of videos you guys want to see, if you're happy with these kinds of videos. And again, be sure to just subscribe if you are new, and check out the website rtbtrading.com.